Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with our guest speaker shadowing today. We're super excited to introduce Dr. Eleni Christoforidou, who is a neuroscientist who will be sharing her journey with us today. So some quick reminders, make sure you're keeping the chat right now just to questions for her or things you have for her presentation. And then if she has time at the end, then she'll let you know how she can answer questions. But we'll give it over to you now.
Thank you so much for inviting me to present this. And thank you everyone for joining today. I'm just gonna share my screen and then I'll be able to start. I think that's it. Share. Okay. I'm gonna open this presentation. We need to switch. How do I do this? Oh. Hold on. Technical issue. Let me just try it a different way. Yeah, okay. Try this again. Okay. How do I close this? Oh, is that okay? Nope. Oh, found it. Okay, cool. Hopefully everyone can now see properly the presentation. Cool. Okay, so I am just going to start with a brief introduction to who I am. I am currently a postdoctoral research fellow in neuroscience at the University of Sussex in the UK. And this is also known more simply as a researcher or a neuroscientist as well. And also in my free time, I am kind of a science communicator as well on Instagram, where I post videos and photos from my day-to-day life in the lab as a scientist. I use videos and photos there to explain various lab techniques that I use. I describe some of the experiments that I'm currently doing. And in general, I just like to show to the general public around the world, and especially to young people, what it is like to be working in a lab doing scientific research. So this is my Instagram handle here if you want to check it out later. So I know some of you might be considering a medical career or a STEM career or something related to healthcare or something like that. So I wanted to give you a brief overview of my education, which is what allowed me to become a neuroscientist or a STEM professional. And some of these things may also apply to those who want to follow a more clinically focused career. It might apply to med school and other STEM subjects as well. So it would be good to, I guess, to get an idea. So when I was in high school, I completed my GCSEs at the age of 17. And these are the UK equivalent to what you call a high school diploma in the USA, I think. And these included science-related subjects and languages because these were the options available at the specific school that I went to. Then I completed my A-levels when I was 18 to 19 years old. And these again are the UK equivalent to what you call advanced placement program in the USA. And again, these were primarily science subjects. And this was intentional because these were required in order for me to get into my chosen universities and study a science subject. So I already knew at that point that I wanted to study a science degree at university because I enjoyed these science subjects that I was doing at school. So I started looking at what different science subjects were offered at various universities, which is how I discovered the field of neuroscience. I had never heard of it before. But after reading about it, I realized that it sounded exactly like what I wanted to be doing as a career. And that is why I had a look at the websites of individual universities that I wanted to apply to. Which, by the way, they were all in the UK because that's where I wanted to go to study. And I found out what were the requirements for getting into specifically neuroscience undergraduate bachelor's degree. And all of the universities required that I have excellent grades in 3 science A-level subjects. So all of the ones I looked at required definitely biology. Some of them had chemistry as mandatory too, but for others, chemistry was optional. And the third A-level subject could be anything. They didn't care what it was, but they recommended or they encouraged that it would be another science subject to better increase your chances of getting into the program. But it wasn't mandatory to be a third science subject. So using my A-levels, I applied to the University of Glasgow, which is in Scotland in the UK. And I was offered a place in a 4-year undergraduate neuroscience program. During my studies, because I had excellent grades, I was invited to switch from an undergraduate bachelor's degree to an integrated master's degree. And I want to emphasize something here because I was a European citizen, I know this might not apply to you here or to everyone, I don't know. But because I was a European citizen, I didn't need to pay fees for my undergraduate degree when I was studying in Scotland specifically. However, if I then wanted to do a master's, I would have to pay expensive fees. But I made sure that I kept up with my studies during my first 2 years as an undergraduate, so I could get excellent grades, so that then they would invite me to switch to a master's because they had that option. And that means I would be able to get a master's without paying fees. So it's important to look for these things when you apply to different programs because they have these options. So anyway, so when I was invited for applying to switch to master's, this basically meant that instead of completing the 4-year program and graduating with a bachelor's in neuroscience, I had to undergo a competitive interview in my 3rd year. And after being successful there, my degree was then changed to a 5-year integrated master's. So the 4 years plus an extra year, and then you end up with a master's. And this meant that between the normal 3rd and 4th years of the bachelor's degree, I had to do a 1-year-long full-time work placement outside of the university, and then come back to university to finish the final year. So I chose to do this placement at the Institute of Neuroscience and Psychology in Glasgow, where I was working full-time for 1 year in a research lab. And this lab predominantly focused on schizophrenia research using human participants. And it was in collaboration with clinical psychologists and other researchers and medical doctors as well. So after those 5 years in total at this university, I finally graduated with an integrated master's degree, which is what then allowed me to apply to PhD position. So I really enjoyed doing research. So I knew again at this point that I wanted to continue doing that and working in a lab. So I then got a place in the 4-year neuroscience PhD program at the University of Sussex, again in the UK. So this time I went for a more molecular biology field instead of psychology field. And this was because I actually enjoyed the biology side of things a bit more. But this PhD was still, again, neuroscience. They was specifically focused on molecular neuroscience. So also, halfway through my PhD, I also completed a teaching course at the same university, which allowed me to gain associate fellowship of the Higher Education Academy, which basically is a certificate that allows me to teach other students at the university. And again, Because as you know, during your PhD, in the majority of cases, you are getting paid, even though you're studying for a degree, you are getting paid a stipend, so sort of like a salary, but kind of different, but it's not much. And so having this extra certificate that allowed me to teach meant that I could become a tutor at the university and get extra money in my free time, which again was very good. So again, make sure you look out for these things if these are things that interest you. So that was it for my education. But throughout this educational journey, I had to prepare various applications to university programs. I had to undergo various competitive interviews. And generally, I had to make sure that I could stand out because I was essentially competing with other applicants all the time. So I thought it would be a good idea to provide you with some advice based on my experience. Obviously, everyone's journey is going to be different, but there are a few key things that you should pay particular attention to. And this is irrespective of whether you're applying to medical school, to a neuroscience degree, to some STEM program, anything science related, or anything else in general, I guess. So the three main things you should focus on are academic excellence, extracurricular activities, and research experience. So make sure you have a high GPA. Obviously, everyone wants to do well in their studies, and make sure you have completed all the prerequisite courses that are required for your chosen program, basically. I would say you should have at least one extracurricular activity that you could talk about in your personal statements or in your applications. And if you can, try and get some relevant research experience. That is, if you want to apply to some research-related program, or some clinical experience if you want to go to the clinical route, some kind of experience basically in the field that you chose to study. Maybe you can participate in some kind of research project, or you can shadow a doctor at a hospital or something that's relevant, yeah? So, yeah, and when it is time to then write your personal statement or to submit your application, you should make sure that you follow some of these tips. So firstly, be authentic. Write a personal statement that genuinely reflects your passion and experiences. The admissions office is reading thousands of applications every year, and I'm sure they're so bored of reading the same generic, blunt, and unauthentic statements all the time. So make sure that your personal statement is actually personal so that they can get to know your personality through it in a way, yeah? Secondly, I would say you should be specific. Tailor your responses to each school's specific prompts. And in most cases, once you look up the specific entry requirements for a particular school or program, you then should make sure that you address each and every one of them in your application. Don't be generic, be specific and address those specific points that they have as requirements, yeah? And finally, prepare for your interviews very well. So practice common interview questions and develop a very clear narrative of your journey. Be prepared to be questioned on anything that you have mentioned in your statement or application. For example, if you mentioned in your statement that you did a summer internship at the research lab in a hospital where you learned how to do histology, then I guarantee you that if you go to an interview, they will ask you about this in the interview. They are going to be testing you to make sure that what you said is actually true and that you in fact know what histology means and what this technique is all about, yeah? Hope that makes sense. Oh, yep, that was it. So yeah, hopefully you found these tips useful. But when in doubt, remember that you can always get more information by finding mentors. So find someone who has followed a career path that sounds kind of like what you want to do and ask them how they got there. So do they have any advice for you? Is there anything they wish they knew when they were at the start of their educational journey? These could be people that you already know. It could be a family member, a friend, a neighbor, anyone. But it could also be complete stranger. But how would you find this complete stranger to ask them the questions, right? Well, these days, there are plenty of STEM professionals or doctors or researchers or scientists, anyone really, who are very keen on providing advice to younger students. So you can always find contact details online, or if it's a person that likes to do science communication, you can usually find that they are very keen to respond to messages on social media, so like Twitter or X, or on their LinkedIn page, or maybe Instagram as well, and stuff like that. So you can always just Google something, find someone that is putting themselves out there online and looks like they care about the younger generation that wants to follow a similar career as them. And then you'll be able to get through to them and ask them your questions. Sort of kind of like what I'm doing right now. I'm free here. I'm here for you. Feel free to ask me questions. Yeah. Right. So now let's look at some more information about what my work is like as a neuroscientist so that you can get an idea of what sort of things I do on a daily basis in my STEM career. So my current research as a neuroscientist working in a lab is actually a continuation of what I was researching during my PhD. So this research is focused on a neurodegenerative disease called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS. Sometimes people call it motor neuron disease or Lou Gehrig's disease. And this disease affects approximately 200,000 people each year. 90% of cases arise without any family history, although there are a lot of genetic causes of the disease as well. The life expectancy is only 2 to 5 years after diagnosis. And the disease is always fatal, and there is currently no cure. And the main symptoms are neuromuscular, as you can see from these diagrams here on the slide. And this is because the main thing that happens in this disease is that the neurons that innervate muscles throughout the body begin to die. And this eventually leads to paralysis. And once the diaphragm, which is also a muscle, is paralyzed, the patients will die from not being able to breathe. And because we currently don't completely understand what is causing these neurons to start dying, we are unable to find a good treatment or a cure. So in my research, this is what I'm trying to find out. I am investigating the various pathologies of the disease to figure out what may be causing them and therefore figure out some way to treat them or cure the disease. So more specifically, I am investigating the role of neuroinflammation, the role of RNA metabolism, genetic mutations, and neuromuscular abnormalities. I won't go into more specific details about what exactly this means because I don't want to get this presentation become too complex. But if you have any questions about that, obviously feel free to ask me at the end. But for now, I wanted to do something a bit more fun, I think. And I wanted to show you what it is like being a neuroscientist in the lab. So I have quite a lot of photos from my lab showing the various things that I do. On this slide, for example, you can see some of the cellular biology techniques that I most commonly use during my experiments. For example, in the top left image, you can see all these flasks, and which actually contain living brain cells. Each flask contains about 3 million brain cells. Or you can see me in this lab uniform in the bottom right corner, which is a special uniform that protects me from liquid nitrogen burns, so I'm using liquid nitrogen to cryopreserve brains and spinal cords and other tissues that I use for the experiments. And up at the top, you can also see an example of me preparing some chemical solutions. So I am doing a bit of chemistry as well, here and there. So I also use a lot of molecular biology techniques and biochemistry. And these are some of the techniques that I've listed here. And you can see some of these images show that I'm using some bacterial cultures. You can see those Petri dishes at the bottom. So I'm using these bacteria for genetic engineering experiments, obviously in the context of the disease that I'm studying. And then this cool looking device at the bottom is a DNA chip, which I use to analyze DNA samples from human patients. And by using, you basically put the DNA sample on this chip, and then you put this chip into a robot that we have in the lab, like a robotic machine, and it does everything for you. So it's kind of cool. And another thing I do quite a lot in the lab is microscopy. I do all sorts of different types of microscopy, ranging from simple basic light microscopy to more complex ones like fluorescent microscopy. For example, here in the middle, you can see some, sorry, here at the top image, you can see some brain slices that they used for a histology experiment. And in the middle, the blue image there, you can see some more brain slices which were processed with fluorescent tags or antibodies in order to visualize specific structures in these brain locations using a fluorescent microscope. And again, at the bottom in the larger image, I'm looking at some living brain cells that I have extracted from a brain. So again, kind of cool experiments. And finally, I also use some in vivo techniques, and I also do a lot of dissections. A lot of the time I dissect specific tissues of interest, mainly the spinal cord and the brain. So the spinal cord you can see in this larger image in the tube. It looks like a little piece of chicken, to be honest, like a meat. And then in the middle image there, you can see a tube with a tiny bit of brain in it. At the top, you can see I'm also dissecting the feet, because I'm looking at the muscles in the feet that begin to start to become paralyzed with the disease. So what are some other things that researchers like me do? Obviously, we're not 24/7 doing experiments. And so I briefly wanted to mention that being a researcher is not just about the experiments that you do. There are a lot of other things that we do, including giving conference talks, presenting posters of our research at symposia. And this is a way to disseminate our latest research findings among other researchers and academics, and also to link that to the with the medical side of things as well. We present to doctors. So we also attend public engagement events where we present and explain our research to the general public. We also have STEM ambassador events where we interact with young children in schools in order to engage them to consider a scientific career, and also to explain to them what it is we are doing as scientists. And usually we are all involved in worldwide collaborations with other researchers working in similar fields. So obviously these things are optional, and not all researchers will choose to participate in all of these. Some of them may not want to do public engagement, for example, but most researchers will do at least a couple of these things I mentioned. I also wanted to show you the kinds of people I work with. So as a researcher, both throughout my PhD and also now as a postdoctoral research fellow, I have been working with others, including principal investigators, postdoctoral researchers, PhD students. I have also been working with master's and undergraduate students who are doing parallel experiments or short-term projects in the same lab as me. And I also sometimes work with placement students and trainee medical doctors, as well as school pupils who come there for their work experience week. And finally, I get to collaborate with professors and lecturers at the university, but also with medical doctors who provide a link between the laboratory research that we're doing and the patient side of things as well. So, and also some research assistants and lab technicians who are helping out with general day-to-day activities in the lab. So one final thing I wanted to mention is the different career options that you have in neuroscience or any STEM related subject really. So most neuroscientists will be working in academia, which basically means they will be working at a university. So that's as postdoctoral researchers like me, or then they could become lecturers or professors. And a good number of scientists will also choose to work in industry, which includes pharmaceutical companies, biotechnology companies, and medical technology companies. And then we have some less well-known options, such as working for non-profit organizations, government agencies, science communication agencies, science education. And we also have clinical research associates, which are those working on clinical trials. And then you have some less obvious career paths, such as medical writing and consulting, some product managers, and these are people who are managing new products, such as drugs or treatments or medical devices that are related to neurological diseases, if it's in the field of neuroscience or some other field as well. And you could even have a job in patent law and intellectual property, where you specifically focus on science or medical patents. And I've heard that patent law actually pays really well, especially for medical patents. So that's something to consider. Oh, yeah, that's it. So that was it. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. You can either type in the chat or you can raise your hand or speak up, whatever you want. And please make sure to check out my Instagram page for more behind the scenes photos and videos from the lab, if that's interesting to you. And I also have a website where you can check out more details about my specific career path if you're interested. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Jonathan, did you want to do the questions and moderate that?
Yeah, okay. So hi doctor. My name is Jonathan. We didn't get to meet yet, but I'll be helping you just moderate this. So I'll just be calling out names and letting them know. Okay, so first question is by Samhita.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Do you have any good study tips if you're thinking about lab research?
Yeah. It depends on the person really, but what I found really useful for me is well, it is kind of time consuming though. When I was studying for that, I was writing every possible question that I could be asked in an exam and then wrote the answer. So when I was studying about, I don't know, how the neurons communicate or something in the brain, I would write every possible question about that. Like I would make my own questions basically, and then write the answer, and then I put them all in a folder. And then every time I wanted to revise, I just read question, then answer, question, then answer. And this helped me remember. Another thing I found useful is to draw diagrams, but it depends on how good you are at drawing. That might not be useful for some people if they're really terrible at drawing. I don't know. But I found that using drawing my own diagrams, not just looking at them in the textbook, just then recreating them with different colors as well. I found that really helped me, especially if you're studying something like anatomy. That really, really helps. I think that's it for study tips. Yeah.
Thank you
Hope
so
that
much.
no problem.
Jonathan,
All right.
before we
Oh,
go on to the hand questions, I see a question that was sent to me directly, so I want to make sure we get to that one. There was a question that asked, how should Nurhan, I believe, sorry if I pronounced your name right, should go about learning lab techniques online because they don't have access to a lot of probably like labs and stuff. How do you learn? I know probably following your Instagram would be a good idea to like see behind the scenes, but do you have any other resources?
So there are probably some YouTube videos that you can find for lab techniques. That's a really good question because there are not that many online resources for the actual techniques. because most people learn this by observing someone doing them in real time in the lab. That's how most people learn. And yeah, other than YouTube, I really don't know where else you would find how to study that. Yeah. Hope that was useful.
All right, next question is from Malak.
Hello.
Hi.
So my question is, what is the best way to start a career in neuroscience? I have been deeply studying and understanding the complexities of our brain, and I'm about to finish the Fundamentals of Neuroscience online course offered by Harvard. However, I feel that might not be the best way to grasp all the basics of neuroscience.
Mhm.
So, uh, what must I start in this career?
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously what you've been doing so far is really good. An additional thing would be, but again, I don't know how easy that would be, and not everyone might be able to do this, but get some relevant volunteering or research, like summer research internship or placement at either a hospital that has like a neurology department or in a research lab in a local university or anything like that, if you have access to that. You can go, like most people who work in research are more than happy to take students for the summer to help them out with things in the lab. And that way you'll learn practical neuroscience as well, not just theoretical that you see in the online courses. So if you can find something like that, that would be really useful. But what you've been doing so far is good. It's a good start. It will definitely be useful.
I see. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, next question is from Soumya.
Hello.
Hi.
So my question is that you mentioned that you did research on schizophrenia. So can you explain what research you did? And my second question is, while you're researching in basically neuroscience and the psychotic medicines that are generating, what gaps do you find in those research, which should be like research more in the future?
Yeah, thank you. So I did that research quite a while now. It's been what, 6, 7, no, maybe more years, probably 7 years actually. So I kind of don't remember that much, but when I was researching schizophrenia, I was using brain imaging techniques like magnetoencephalography or MEC for short, which is basically a huge machine that you put on the head, and it has like kind of like electrodes, and it reads brain activity. And we were using that to specifically on people who were at higher risk of developing schizophrenia, and not people who had schizophrenia already. And we were trying to identify if there was any pattern in their brain activity that would then lead to schizophrenia, so that we could prevent it earlier, basically. That was the kind of research I was doing. In terms of any gaps that we noticed, I definitely noticed that, how do I explain this? I definitely noticed that socioeconomic background in a lot of our participants played a big factor. So we noticed that a lot of people from poorer backgrounds or lower socioeconomic status were in fact at higher risk of developing psychosis or schizophrenia. And I found that really interesting. But then I didn't have time to look into it that much because by the end of the project, there wasn't enough time to go into that route, because I was looking at some kind of like some other things. But I think after I left that institute, the researcher who was managing this study eventually looked into that, and I think they published the results. I can't remember which journal it is, but you might be able to find that information if you do a bit of Google searching. I think I answered your question, but let me know if not.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you two questions from the group chat. So one is, have you ever wrote a statement of interest when joining a lab? If so, how did you format yours and what did you include in it?
Yeah, so I did have to write a statement for both when I was applying for my undergraduate degree and also for joining the PhD program, so for joining the lab for that program. So for both of those occasions, you basically want to say why you're the best person for that particular program. Why should they choose you? That's what I did. And you want to describe your relevant research experience or relevant experience in the subject that you're applying to. For example, during my high school years, I had done summer internships at a hospital and at a stem cell banking facility. So like a laboratory where they were taking the umbilical cord and the placenta from mothers who had just given birth, and they were using the stem cells in that to preserve them, cryopreserve them, so that when their child later grew up, if there was any medical issue that required them to have some kind of complicated procedure, they would have these stem cells already to use that are specific for that child. So I learned a lot of laboratory techniques there during that summer internship. So I was able to talk about that in my statement. Obviously, that's not directly relevant to neuroscience, which is what I was applying to, but the techniques I was using are techniques that are also used in neuroscience. And similarly, when I did my other summer internship 1 other year in a hospital, I was basically shadowing different nurses and different doctors and joining surgeries as an observer and learning how to take patients' vital signs and all that stuff. So I talked about that. Another thing you want to talk about is obviously your extracurricular activities. So if you do any sports, if you do dancing, if you do, I don't know what else, like music, stuff like that. You want to talk about that a little bit as well, so that you show that you're not just a nerd, basically, that you're a real whole human person and you have a life outside your studies as well. So that's basically it. You want to structure it that way. So talk a little bit about relevant research experience or relevant experience, and then some kind of extracurricular as well. And make sure you're specifically also addressing the requirements of the program. So if the program says you should ideally have, I don't know, you should have ideally done some kind of research project, then you should mention that as well. Yeah. Hope that helps.
Okay, so another question from the chat. I want to start doing a project on neuroscience, but I don't know where to start in my research. Do you have any suggestions as to how to start?
Yeah, so unless you're already in a lab, so if you are already in some kind of lab, you would know, but I guess that means you're not. So you could do some kind of online analysis. So there are some online databases with data that you can use freely. These are real life research data that have been uploaded online on databases for people to use for their own experiments or to reanalyze in some way. So you can download some of this data and come up with your own hypothesis or something to test it, obviously, without doing any further experiments, unless, of course, you have access to a lab, but that's a bit more difficult. You could do some kind of data analysis, like data science kind of thing, where you mine data from the databases. For example, it could be genetic data. Usually those are really, really good. So gene mutations that are appearing to be occurring more in neurological diseases than in healthy controls, for example. You could do something like that. So I would really look into doing something like this. Yeah.
All right, next question is from Fairuz.
Mhm.
Fairuz, are you there? All right, we'll wait for him then. We'll go with Sophia then. No, Sophia? Okay. Let's see. Okay, then we'll go with Rowan. Rowan, are you there?
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello.
I want to ask you how to reduce the chance for
Rowan, you're on mute.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I want to ask you how to reduce the chance for being accepted in the scholarships.
How do we increase your chances? Um,
Um, yeah.
yeah, that's a bit tricky because I don't actually know what kind of criteria they are looking for scholarships. But usually, in most cases, it will be the person that has the highest grades and in the most relevant subjects. Unless, of course, it's a scholarship that's based on some other external factor, like there are specific scholarships for girls, for example, or specific scholarships for people from certain areas. But if it's not a scholarship like that, and it's a general scholarship that's available for everyone, it will then be most likely the person with the best grade and the most relevant subjects. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
no problem.
Okay, I'm gonna try to go back to some people that we called before. Is Fairuz there?
Hi,
Hello.
I actually want to know what is the good scholarship in neuroscience or medicine I can start in, or how?
What's a good scholarship, you said?
Yeah.
Um, I have no idea. I'm afraid I can't answer that because I don't know. Because I actually didn't have to look for any scholarships because, like I mentioned earlier, uh, I am a European citizen, which means I don't pay fees if I choose to study in Scotland. And there are a few other countries in Europe that do this kind of thing. So I really didn't look into any scholarships of any sort. So I have no idea how to answer your question, unfortunately.
I can
Yeah.
actually help you with that question. Well, first of all, you can just search up scholarships and see what comes up. But also there's bigger ones like the Gates Scholarship, which is a full ride in the United States. There's Questbridge, which should take international students as well. So you should look into that. But also there are some schools that offer full ride scholarships, so you can search up international full ride scholarships and see what comes up for some schools in the United States. Yeah,
Yeah, I understand. Thank you very much.
awesome. Okay, so we'll go with Sophia.
Hello. Thank you so much for your talk and telling us about your story. My question is how you can get research experience if you don't have any prior experience with research. I'm going into first year university and I was wondering, like, I know there are some like courses, but outside of that, how you can get research.
Yeah. So you're not going to be hired to do research without any prior research experience, but they will definitely accept you as a volunteer. So most university research labs are desperate for people to help them run some simple experiments. So they are more than happy to take on students to help them around, but unfortunately they don't pay them. And that's also because they don't have enough funding for that anyway. But I would definitely go and ask at this university that you're applying to or that you're going to already, ask the researchers there if they have any availability to take on any students.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. So just like go around and cold email people.
That's literally it, yeah. And they will definitely get back to you. At least one of them will definitely get back to you because most of them, like I said, are desperate to find help.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, next question is by Haneen. Or not.
Hi,
Oh.
can you hear me?
Yes.
So my question is very simple. So what makes me like know that I'm interested in the neuroscience or the neuroscience researches? Or let me ask it by another way. So when did you realize that you love this field or like that? Do you understand me?
I understand. Yeah, that's a really good question because in general, throughout my high school years, I really enjoyed any science subject. I liked maths, I liked physics, I liked biology, I liked anything to do with science. And so I knew it was going to be something related to that. But again, I kept changing my mind. Sometimes I was like, I want to study physics. And then I was like, I'm actually going to go to NASA and become an astronaut. I liked engineering, and then I liked maths, and then I liked statistics, and then I liked biology and chemistry and all that. I couldn't make up my mind. But when it was time to actually apply to specific program, I was like, right, it's the final decision now. It's now or never. I need to choose one. And I was reading the summary of each of the degrees that were available at the university. And I came across this new word, neuroscience. I had never heard of it before. And then I read the description and it said it has to do with the brain and the nervous system. And it's basically biology, but specifically focused on brain and nervous system. And that really piqued my interest. I was like, I want to study that. That sounds like exactly what I was looking for. And I didn't know it even existed. So to answer your question, you won't really know for sure until it's time to finally decide. And even if you're still not sure, there are some, I don't know how it happens in other countries, but in the universities in the UK or specifically in Scotland, even though I applied to a neuroscience 4-year degree, if I performed better in my chemistry classes in my first year, I could then switch to chemistry, for example. I get a chemistry degree. Because in your first year, you're doing both biology subjects and chemistry and sometimes math or physics. So you can switch. So I could have switched to anatomy if I wanted to, or to genetics if I didn't like neuroscience in the end. Yeah. So look for that as well. There are some universities that have this option. I hope that was useful.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
No problem.
All right, next question is from Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I want to ask you, as a neurologist and a medical student, who have to study for long hours and keep a lot of things. How to avoid mental distractions and daydreaming during studying and increase our memorization ability?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not an expert, as a neuroscientist, I'm not an expert in that particular area. But from what I understand, you basically don't want to force yourself too much, and you want to take regular breaks and make sure you don't lose any sleep either. So in general, you'll hear this from everyone anyway. Just have a healthy lifestyle, healthy habits, and don't lose any sleep and take regular breaks. And that will definitely reduce your daydreaming and increase your absorption of the information, let's say. If you find that you're daydreaming quite a lot, it usually means that your brain is actually tired and you've overworked it. So it obviously is either lacking sleep or energy. So get some food or get some sleep. That will definitely help.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, I'm gonna take some questions from the group chat as well, or just the chat. So what are some ways or resources to look for to get research internships opportunities in undergrad? Yeah, that's of course.
So as an undergrad, there might be, for example, at the university I'm currently at, they have this junior research associate scheme, for example. They might have something similar in other universities. That's where you, in your second year as an undergraduate, you apply to a lab to do a summer project with them. And it's kind of competitive because they also get a salary for the summer, the student we selected, I mean. So lots of universities will have that as an opportunity. If that's not available, again, like I mentioned earlier, just email people, find them, ask them to go into their lab and do some unpaid, basically volunteer research project. There's no other way really, I don't know.
Okay, next question. How can a person know more about intracranial pressure, ICP, or how can we develop the measurement methods of it?
That's a good question. Again, not my specific area of expertise, but I would say your best chance of finding accurate and up-to-date information is to use journal articles. Obviously, I know this is kind of tricky unless you're already part of a university, because you might not have access to these articles because they are behind a paywall. So if you have a local library that subscribes to these journals, you might be able to then read the articles. If not, look at some of these, what are they called? Things like The New Scientist or Neuroscience News. These are kind of like online websites or always online magazine kind of thing, where they summarize scientific research from journals for the general public. So those are usually accurate and up to date.
Okay, next question from Samhita. I am currently 14 years old and a rising freshman, and I have volunteered at a veterans hospital this summer alongside this program. What would you recommend would be good next steps for me as I am on or just to get on the right path for a medical career?
Yeah, good question. So for a medical career, I would imagine they would want you to have some kind of, again, relevant experience. So you've already done really well by volunteering at the Veterans Hospital and doing this as well. So that's a good step. So again, I would recommend every summer, if that's possible for you, to find some kind of volunteer or other kind of clinical experience that you can do. You can shadow people at the hospital. You can find different hospital next summer, for example. There's not much else really, because they're not really going to be looking for anything more specific than that. And what you've already done is really good already. So I don't know what would be next step. I guess you could try taking some online courses, like I don't know if you know of the website Coursera, for example, which offers online courses from various universities. Try and do some of that, I would say. That's a good thing to do. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take the next question from Rowan.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, actually, I want to ask you, how can I develop my writing in essay to increase from my acceptance in new programs or admission? Because I face difficulty in that.
Yeah, that's good. Good question. I found that personally, for me, reading, but not reading for school, reading literature, like reading fiction books and stuff, really helped me improve my writing skills because I was able to formulate more complex sentences, use more complicated vocabulary, more advanced words. And I would say also you could try write a draft like let's say you're writing a personal statement, write a draft in bullet points and then convert each of your bullet point into a sentence, but try and then use more complex words. So replace all the simple words with more complex synonyms. Yeah, that will make it sound better, sound more advanced. Yeah. But yeah, I found that for me, reading was a big factor in improving my writing skills. So try and do a bit of that.
Okay, I got it. Actually, I have second question.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Mhm.
This will be very crazy, but I wanted to know what is the best routine that should I have in my study?
So what do you mean in terms of routines? Could you explain a bit what you mean? Because I'm not sure.
I mean, what should I follow in my routine days
Mm,
to study well?
I see. So, okay. So again, each person is going to be different. Some people find that okay, for me, okay, I like to be very organized with my time. So I use things like Google Calendar and I pre-plan my entire week in terms of what I want to study or what I want to work on. And then try and keep to that plan. And a good tip is that if you think studying this thing is going to take you 1 hour, you are wrong. It's going to take you twice as much. So plan for twice as much as you think it's going to take you. And obviously include breaks in between. I don't know what else you can do in terms of your routine. For me, planning in advance is the most important thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, we really only have time for one last question. So let's take it out with a bang. Ritaj? No Ritaj? Okay, what about Noor?
Okay, I'm here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, you hear me?
Yeah.
So my question is that I am a lab technician and I am interested in doing research, but I like since I just got my diploma degree in it, I'm not further in bachelor or master's. So I want to start something even simple, but I do not how.
Mhm.
Like how exactly I just start with researching.
Yeah. So you're already working in a lab from what I understand. So that's a good first step. In
Yes.
order to do your own research, you would have to be employed as a researcher. So you would need to apply to a job basically. And that's how you then get the funding to do the research. Because without the funding, you won't be able to buy the materials that you need and get the samples that you need to do the kind of research that you want. So basically what I'm saying is try and apply to a job as a researcher.
Yeah,
Now,
I am
yeah.
already doing an internship and I'm going into some workshops, but
Mhm.
it's like how like I go further with research maybe in time and maybe publish research and things.
Yeah, yeah. It's good that you're already doing some kind of lab work because that will help you get publications, because obviously if the project you're working on is eventually, hopefully, going to be published, and you make sure that you get your name onto that. In terms of long term, I would say if you don't want to do another degree, you could start with a more simple kind of job, like a lab research associate, they're called sometimes, or a lab technician, or a research assistant. There's different names for this. And then help out on projects of other people. And again, that's how you get to get published on their papers, because you're going to be doing some of the work, obviously. And that keeps you, again, researching in the meantime, so that you get more and more experience, so that then you can go and apply for a job higher up and do a more specific research that you are interested in.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Can we give her a virtual round of applause, please?
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you for having me. It's been really interesting. It's been really nice to speak to everyone here.
So if anybody has any additional questions, how could they reach out to you?
I don't know if it's possible for you guys that organize this to maybe collate any questions from everyone, if they have any, and then you can just send me the questions and I'll try and answer them. And I'll send
Davina
you.
just gave the thumbs up, so that's a yes.
Yep.
That's a yes. That's a yes.
That sounds
Awesome.
like
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Davina, do you want to transition?
Yeah, okay. So thank you everyone for for reacting with a little clap emoji for Dr. Eleni. Thank you so much for your time. And then our participants will also be writing you some thank you messages that we'll forward to you in a couple weeks.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
It's
much
been
again.
really nice, and hope everyone succeeds in their journeys, and good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good luck to you too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. I'm launching our first attendance poll, so please feel free to fill it out. Again, you know the drill. If you can't see it or you can't answer it, you can't click on a button for whatever reason, just reach out to Rourke and let him know right now that you can't do it. Again, the most important thing is that you message Rourke on time. It's okay if he doesn't respond immediately, because we don't process attendance until after we look at everyone that's completed our homework assignment that we're releasing later. So it's okay if you don't receive a response right away. We will get back to you, we promise. And you can always follow up after a couple days. But yes, if you can't see the poll, please message Rourke on Slack. And then I see some of you turning your cameras on already. So yes, the next thing that we're going to be doing is taking a group picture. So after you've answered the poll, if you want to turn your cameras on for just 30 seconds, then we'll take a little group picture together. And just wanted to remind you all that this will be shared on our social media and also shared with you later today. So if you're not comfortable being on our social media or anything, you don't have to turn your cameras on. It's not required. It's just for fun. So I'll give everyone another minute to like fix their hair and like make sure you look good. And then I'll let you know when we're doing it. I'll probably have to take a couple because not everyone's going to fit on one of my Zoom screens, but I'll let you know. So just answer the poll and then I'll get back to you guys in 1 sec. Okay, I'm gonna give it 30 more seconds because I still see some people turning their cameras on. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and take our picture, okay? Also, try not to message in the chat right now, just because if you message in the chat, then it'll pop up on my screen and end up blocking some people's faces. So if you can hold off from messaging in the chat for like another minute, then that would be great, just so I don't miss anyone. Someone just messaged me. Okay. All right. I think everybody's all set now. I don't see a ton more people turning their cameras on, so I'm going to assume everyone's okay. Okay, cool. All right, okay. So I'm going to count down from 3, and then I'm going to take a couple, and then I'm going to ask you to please keep your smiles up while I move my Zoom screen to the next page so I can take a couple more to make sure that I get everyone. All right. Everyone ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm moving to my next page. You don't know which page you're on, so just smile again, everybody. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think I got everybody. So you can turn your cameras off now, and then we're going to share all these pictures with you as soon as the session is done, actually. So if you want to repost them, post them on your story, do whatever you want with them, that's totally fine. But thanks so much for participating in that. It was really nice to actually see everybody. And I'm assuming at this point you've answered the poll or messaged work if you weren't able to see it, so I'm ending it now. We'll have another one at the end of the session, and then that will be it for all the polls you'll ever have to do for our summer program this year. But I'll go ahead and get started with our workshop for today. Okay, so like the slideshow mentions, this is our last session. So this is our 5th year running the program. So we've done 5 last sessions, and it's actually really crazy to us that we've been able to run so many programs and see so many students. And it was really nice getting to chat with all of you over the past couple of weeks and learn more about where you're at in your educational career and just what you're up to. So thank you so much again for joining us this summer program and for making it this far. Okay, so here are a couple of important upcoming deadlines. I'm actually going to share a bunch of links in the chat right now. These are all of the forms that you'll need for the rest of the post program. I would like to clarify and make sure everybody knows this, that the only thing you have to do if you want your certificate is to do the homework form, which is right at the top of all of the links that I just sent out in the chat. That is the only thing that is required. You don't have to do anything else. Everything else is optional, and we're going to be sending out all of these links on Slack right after the session as well. But I just wanted to let everyone know, the only thing you have to do on this giant list of forms is just do the homework assignment, which is right at the top. It's due next Friday, August 2nd, but I always encourage students to do it sooner rather than later when the program experience is kind of fresh in your mind and you can write a little bit more about it, because what we tend to see is the participants that leave it to the last minute aren't able to fill it out on time, and we don't want to run into any issues with certificate eligibility. So please, please just try to fill it out as soon as you can. It should only take you like 20 minutes. And we'll also send the links on Slack. There's only one homework assignment. That's all you have to do. But if you're interested in some other things, you can also say thank you to our guest speakers by filling out a guest speaker thank you form. So just writing them a nice message saying, thanks for coming in. I enjoyed your talk. I liked how you talked about this, etc. And then if you fill it out for all of the guest speakers, we'll give you we'll give you 1 volunteer hour. Another important upcoming deadline, so you can look at the other link, the second link or the third link, I think, that I sent out, is for our research symposium. So we'll give more details on this later, but if you open up our research symposium document, you'll be able to see that our prompt for this year is kind of similar to last year's, where we give you free range to develop your own solution to a real world problem in the medical, healthcare, and science fields. So we listed a couple of pressing problems for you, but you can really pick whichever problem you like and thoroughly design your own solution. So we have a rubric linked in that document. We have next steps. We have important deadlines. But the biggest thing you need to know is that if you're interested in participating in our research symposium, yes, we do give awards for really good submissions. You have to fill out the registration form by next Saturday. And if you're interested, we'll probably host a workshop within the next week for anyone interested in participating in the research symposium. So you can get more information on what the competition will be like, how you can participate. If you need help finding members to be in your group. If you want to work collaboratively, then we'll help you find people to be in your group as well. But this is open to everybody in the program and everyone outside of the program as well. So if you want to work in a group to design your own solution, but you want to work with students from your school or some of your friends, that's totally okay. You just have to email us asking for approval just so we can confirm that they're also students. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you want to participate in that, you can. You can actually also on our YouTube channel watch our research symposium from last year. So it was like a 6-hour whole day thing where students presented all of their solutions, and it was a pretty similar prompt. So if you're wondering what successful submissions look like, you can watch that recording and learn from the students that worked over the period of a couple weeks to design their own solution and see how they presented it. We also have some other surprise announcements about other ways that you can get involved with our team here at MedStem Powered, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And our whole day symposium will be taking place on Saturday, August 17th. So it will start at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time and run for as long as we have presentations and submissions. And then our submissions are just due the day before. So we'll give you more information on this later because I understand this is probably a lot of information right now. For anyone that missed it, I'm resending all of the links that I'm talking about right now in the chat. So if you have any questions, just feel free to open the document and most likely it'll be answered there. But we'll go into more about us and more about the team here that runs our summer program. So we're officially 4 years old. This is our 5th summer program, and our summer programs first started in 2020. So right amidst the COVID pandemic. So we've run 5 of these now. And here's just some of the things that we've been able to do over the past 4 years. So we've hosted a ton of summer programs. We've hosted 3 winter camps. We've hosted a college app series. We did this little STEM series. We've created content and research in healthcare. And we've also created resource packs for the public. So we've done quite a bit over the past couple of years, and that's all thanks to our hardworking team members here and also students that are interested in learning from what we have to provide. So if you're interested in learning more about our team here, these are all of the amazing people that have been working really, really tirelessly to make this program possible. So again, thank you so much to everybody that you see on the screen. Ahmad, our executive director, who's awesome. He's actually the person who created our international program, which has been a huge success, and he's spearheading our global health initiative. So thank you, Ahmad. The Nuja has been working on our research symposium for the past couple of years and created one of our case study competitions. She's great. Jonathan is working on our mentorship program this year, and he's doing a fantastic job. And if you've ever missed a poll, Rourke is the one that deals with all of our attendance issues and certificate eligibility. So everyone here is working really hard to make this program experience really good. And we just wanted to say thank you to everyone here on the screen for making the summer program a really great experience. And it's all because of their hard work. Okay, so now we'll be talking about some of our open positions in our mentorship program. So this was kind of the surprise announcement that I was referring to in my message earlier this week. So to get things started, we're offering a new mentorship program, a BSMD and a general mentorship program, and that's kind of due the beginning to middle of August. So I'm going to let Jonathan kind of take over and speak a little bit to what our mentorship program is going to be like.
Yeah, guys, hello. So again, my name's Jonathan. Thank you so much, Savina. Thank you so much, Ahmad, for having me. So essentially does anybody know what a BSMD program is? You can put up a thumbs up or something. Does anybody know? Okay, I'll take that as no. So BSMD programs are direct admissions into medical school straight from high school. So for some of these programs, you don't have to take the MCAT, no tests at all. You apply just as you would normally apply to colleges, and then on top of that, you get an interview or whatever the case may be, and be admitted not only for your 4-year undergrad, but as well as 4 years of medical school. So you basically apply and get into medical school before you even finish high school, which is absolutely amazing. So basically, that's what we're running this year. It's a complete new program. Actually, I didn't even tell Davina yet, but we got a few new mentors. Some coming from like Brown Plemy, which is the hardest one period to get into. REMS, which is the one in Rochester, which has a 0.10% acceptance rate. So pretty astounding. And then University of Pittsburgh. So we have a few students who are already in as mentors and are willing to, take on some students and whatnot. So it's a one-on-one mentorship program. So from the minute you start applying to colleges, they're there to help you, basically hold your hand, guide you through everything that you would need to do. So essays, supplements, the interviews. And we're hoping that we on our side at MedStem Powered can also, connect you with doctors who can help you with your medical school interviews. So that's the plan. Please feel free for the next like 2 or 3 minutes just to ask questions, and then I'll let them take over from there. So does anybody have any questions about what the BSMD program would be or how to apply?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so in terms of the BSMD, you said some schools don't require MCAT whatsoever for that?
No, absolutely, like not at all.
Do you know, is there, I don't know if you guys created ahead of time, is there a certain list of these colleges?
Yeah, so actually, I mean, on top of the fact that there's already lists, like if you sign up and you get a mentor, they'll also be able to help you find those certain schools.
I don't know. Is that
But
like,
yeah, I mean, what'd you say?
no, sorry, you can go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, you could just search up BSMD with no MCAT and it'll show up. But again, some of them are tricky to find. So when I applied and I got into two, but when I applied, I couldn't really find much. I applied to around like six schools. Whereas one girl who I was doing my interview with, she applied to 27. I didn't even know there was 27 that existed. So that's why this whole mentorship program is here to help you guys find these programs and apply on time and really get a chance uh, to really knock it out of the park and get in.
Wait, so what is important on that application since it is out of high school? I mean, there's not necessarily any medical stuff, or maybe there is, but it's limited in high school. What did you put on your application specifically that made you stand out versus other?
So on top of the fact that I've been here for like 2 years as an executive intern, I had research coming out straight out of high school. I got my AA during high school, so I got 2 years of college done during high school. Just you have to show an interest in medicine. I'm from Florida, so people in Florida are crazy, but on top of the fact of that, it's I shadow doctors here, so I had some really interesting stories about shadowing. Like one time there's this lady who like had a mermaid show on Netflix. Like yeah, I just had a bunch of interesting stories to tell that the committee really liked. So on top of your activities, it's just having something to say, having your own stories and passions outside of medicine, which is something that not a lot of people talk about.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll take how much time do I have, Davinia? Can I take a few questions or no?
You can take 2 questions. I think some people have their hands up.
Okay. So I'll start with Che. I'm sorry if I butchered your name.
Yeah, that's right. So I just had a question. So what's the criteria to apply for this mentorship program?
So we set baseline 1300 and then like on the SAT or the equivalent of the ACT and then also a 3.6 GPA, but also do not be discouraged to just apply and see what happens. Especially with some of these BSMD programs, some people who may not have the highest grades but have an amazing story to tell can really shine through. So again, just put your name in just really just I'm not a joke, just apply and see what happens. But baseline is 1300 and then a 3.6 GPA.
Okay.
And then you said one more question, so I'm gonna use that. Ishan?
Yeah, I'm really sorry if you sound like silly questions, but like, I'm still confused what exactly we'd be mentored on.
Yeah, that's completely fine. So number one, a lot of people when they write their supplements for programs, they don't really get their message across. So for instance, when I first did my college essay, like my first draft, and this is not even just for BSMDs, this is just mentorship in general, like college mentorship. You think your essay is amazing because you wrote it, but when someone else reads it to you, they're like, there's a few things that you can tweak, and there's definitely ways that you can help your personality shine through. So a big part of this is just having someone who has gone through the process of applying to colleges. Because mind you, especially when people apply to these programs, you have to do a completely separate application for the program. So usually people apply to like 12 schools, but when you're doing something like this, you're probably applying closer to like 30. So that's why I'm saying it's a bit more rigorous, and having someone who knows the process and can help you really get through it, I think is very extremely important. Especially because a lot of these programs close early. So m many applications close like maybe July and February. Sorry, not July, January and February, whereas some of these close as early as like October. So, just getting someone who can help you really streamline the process.
Okay, thank you. Is it okay if I just ask one more question?
If Davina allows.
That's fine.
Okay, so it's a quick one. Is this mentorship program specifically for BSMDs, or can it be for any college, really?
So we have two, right? So we're doing a BSMD program, and then on top of that, we're gonna have general. We don't have the infrastructure right now for general, so like the idea with that one is to pop in, kind of like join a Zoom and just have any questions you have for college just get answered on the spot, or within the day or whatever. But right now we don't have that. But if you shoot me a message on Slack or Elijah on Slack, we can help you with anything until we get everything set up. My idea was to have like a few Zooms throughout the month, just to help with college applications and stuff like that. So if that's something that's interesting to you, like you can message me on Slack, and I can definitely help you out.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, yes. And if you have any future questions, just ask us on Slack. There's an error in one of the forms right now, so we just have to close it and then resend it to you, but they'll be out pretty soon. And they're not going to be due until like the end of August, so you have at least a month to apply. So yeah, that's it for our mentorship program. And then Ahmad, who is spearheading our global health initiative, is going to tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm so excited to see everyone here today for our last national programming and to launch our inaugural Global Health Initiative. I know a lot of people are interested in, getting volunteer hours from Medicine Empowered and showing continued interest, as well as, launching their own some sort of passion project. So our global health initiative is this program, and it's gonna, if you go to the next slide, I'll show you a little bit more about what it is. So it combines advancing public health. You'll be doing research, you'll receive mentorship in public health, as well as start and initiate your own community-driven projects. So it's really exciting since you'll be able to identify gaps within the public health infrastructure in your community and work to create solutions. I'll provide some examples on what type of projects you can do, but it's really exciting. And if you go to the next slide, I'll show a little bit more about kind of how the program will work. So the first cohort is going to be from September to January, where we'll work with you on various tasks for you to launch this project. So you first have to apply. Applications will be live on Slack on August 1st, and you'll have until about August 25th to apply. And once you're accepted into the program, you'll pretty much have the opportunity to join on a series of lecture series for a couple of weeks where you'll learn about various topics in public health, global health, and medicine. Also, projects such as project management, how to launch your own initiative, all that jazz you'll learn in the first couple weeks of the program. And then once you're ready and you have your ideas sorted and how you're gonna run whatever you're launching, we'll work with you to create this project and launch it. And once you've completed launching and made significant progress, you'll do a reflection paper and do kind of organize your key findings and learnings. And after, you'll be eligible to volunteer. You'll be eligible for volunteer hours, leadership hours, and be able to receive awards. We'll have quarterly awards. So if you have, for instance, the best program, the most successful program, or one that we think stood out, you'll be eligible for awards. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's definitely our first time running this program, so we'll be learning alongside with you, but we're very excited to start this program this year. If you go to the next slide, I'll provide some examples on projects that you can run. It could be something like maternal mortality education kits. You can lead a mental health peer support group in your community, organize a blood drive, or provide community members with tests for heart health biomarkers, reduce HIV/AIDS stigma by starting a local education campaign, or you could, create workshops for local school district for girls interested in entering STEM fields in your country or your city. So yeah, it's a very versatile. You can do a lot of different projects. Whatever you're really passionate about, you can really launch here. And we're very excited. I'll take a couple of questions, but I'll send a lot more resources as well as the application towards the beginning of August. So I'll take a couple questions now, but otherwise, we're really excited to launch it, and we will again have all this info in stock for sure. I know there's a ton of things we're launching this year, so we want to make sure that we'll provide all these links on Slack, and also be able to answer any questions. So I'll take a couple questions before. So how do we get accepted into the program? So once you complete our tunnel program, you will be able to apply. Again, on August 1st, we'll send an application. Should be released at noon. I'll tell you on time soon, but there you'll be able to do that. Which time will we do the homework? So the homework is going to be sent and be due in a couple weeks. I think next Friday. So there's Davina, if you can resend the links. I think people are trying to find some. I think that be good. But yeah, so yeah, the application will be rigorous, of course, but we look to accept as many students as we can, have the ideas and have the passion to start their own initiative in global health. So yeah. If I don't see any questions or any hands raised, I'll stay. Don't know how to pronounce her name. Neon Gabri. If I pronounce her name wrong, please let me know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I go by Anna, sorry.
Anna.
So I was wondering, is this also accessible to college students, even though I'm not one, just asking?
Yeah, college students, international students, anyone can apply worldwide. This is a global health initiative. So anywhere in the world can apply to this program. But if we don't have any questions, I'll stick around at the end if anyone does have any questions, but I'll also be available on Slack. So I'll hand over the mic to Davina.
Awesome. Okay, yes. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at the end, or we'll stick around to answer some questions right after the end of the session. Then you can always message us on Slack, where we're going to be providing the links for all of these and more details on how you can get involved. Okay, so I wanted to talk to all of you about our executive internship. So most of you have probably interacted with at least 3 of our team members so far, Thanuja, Rourke, and Jonathan, who you just heard from. They actually all started off at MedStem Powered as executive interns, and they just did such a great job that we had to hire them full time. So if you're interested in joining our leadership team here, if you're really passionate about a certain kind of project, or you have an idea that you just need some help launching, maybe it's not necessarily inside global health, but it's outside of it. It's just a general idea that you want to bring to life, we would encourage you to apply. If running a summer program sounds like fun to you, if you're interested in learning how nonprofits work, learning how we conduct our scientific outreach to get tons of participants every year and learn how students learn best, if it sounds like something of interest to you, then we would encourage you to apply for our executive internship. I'll drop the link in the chat right now. It's not due until August 11th because we want to give everybody time to finish the homework, register for the research symposium, and at least get started on the research symposium a little bit. But we would encourage you to apply. We're unfortunately only hiring for 2 to 3 positions, so it's going to be a little bit competitive. But what we want you to know is that you don't have to have any experience in literally anything to apply. What's the most important thing to us is seeing that you're passionate about something and seeing that you know how to think through an idea. So some previous successful applications that we've seen from executive interns, they've talked us through their ideas, how they would do it, why they wanted to do it, what gap this would be bridging in the field, and then how we could help them bring it to life. And some of our executive interns have brought their ideas to life through this internship. So you work directly with all of us and help run our programs. And yeah, if you have any questions about this internship, I'd be happy to answer them. There is the opportunity to potentially be recruited full-time if you're interested in that. But if you're interested in joining the team here in that way, then you're more than welcome to apply. And someone asks, is there an age restriction? Absolutely not. There's not even an age restriction for our summer program either. I think we've had students as young as being in middle school to, I think we had some parents do our summer program last year as well. So yeah, there's never an age restriction on anything we do here. You just have to make sure if you're under the age of 18, your parents know about this or your guardians know about it, but we don't restrict based on age. But yeah, we want to help you, see your ideas come to life because this summer program started with an idea that we had a couple of years ago. And so we want to make sure that if you have an idea and we're here to help, we can make that happen. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I'll move on to the rest of what we have planned for you today. Okay, so now I want to briefly chat with all of you about maximizing your program experience. So this is what a sample certificate looks like. It's not what our certificate is going to look like this year. We change the design every year. So it'll have your shadowing hours on it, your name, it'll have our signatures on it, and it'll just certify that you did the program, you were here, and you attended it live. So if you have LinkedIn, I know a lot of you have been sharing your LinkedIn links in our Slack channels to get connected with other program participants. That's fantastic. If you don't have it, you can set it up. It's free. It's basically what I like to refer to as a business Instagram. So if you want to set up a LinkedIn account, that'd be great. It's a nice way to stay connected with people, to build connections, to find out more about people that are working in fields that you're interested in, or to just find people in the fields that you're interested in. So you can add this experience to your LinkedIn to kind of boost your profile. So this is what LinkedIn looks like. You can see posts from other people sharing work accomplishments, what they're working on in their careers, extracurriculars. Sometimes people post updates if they are starting school. And someone asks, what's a good age for LinkedIn? I would say anywhere, you can start it as early as high school. I don't know what the typical ages are, maybe like 13, 14. But you can start it as early as you'd like. I've been building my LinkedIn profile since I was maybe like 13, I want to say 13 or 14, so about like 7 years. But you can really start it whenever. And connections are essentially just like business friend requests. So you can request to even follow us on LinkedIn. So we have a company LinkedIn, MedStem Powered, and then myself, Ahmad, Jonathan, Thanuja, we also have LinkedIn. You can connect with us as well to kind of just, stay in touch. So we have some steps here for adding this to your personal LinkedIn. We're going to share this workshop with you afterwards, so you don't have to like furiously take notes. But this just shows you how to take this program experience and add it to your LinkedIn to kind of strengthen your profile. So you can add this experience as, being a summer program participant. Our company is registered on LinkedIn, so you can add it there. We've even pre-written a description for you, so you can just pretty much copy and paste it, fill in some details like what the program cohort size was and how many shadowing hours you earned, and you can add that there as well. You can also upload a PDF of your program certificate. If you got a debate award, we'll be emailing those certificates out within the next couple of weeks as well. And then if you got a research symposium award, we offer different kinds of awards based on the different categories. So like most innovative, most creative, easiest to implement, those kinds of things. And if you have those awards, you can basically just upload them all here. And yes, everything here is going to be sent in Slack. I'm going to send out this slideshow essentially like right after I'm done presenting it. So you will have access to all of this, so you don't have to like write anything down right now. You can also add this as volunteer experience. So a lot of our students this year helped out with translation, which was really, really helpful in making sure our resources were accessible as possible. So if you volunteered and you translated stuff for us, then you can add that as volunteer experience. That's totally valid. You can also add, skills like STEM, leadership, learning. If you get honors and awards, if you get an award for the debate or the research symposium, you can add them here as well. You also post about this on your LinkedIn. So I have here a real post from someone who attended our summer program in our inaugural year. So the first year that we ran it in 2020, and they just posted their certificate. They talked about how they had a good time and they learned a lot and, just thanks for the experience. So you can post about this as well, and your connections will see that you've done the program. It also helps spread the word about the program as well. So if you're looking to add this to your college applications, jobs, resume, you're absolutely able to do that as well. You can add this in your college apps under the extracurriculars section. You can add awards under the awards category. Once you start your Common App or Coalition app, that's the application portal for students in the US. you'll be able to see these different sections. So you can add this experience there as well. You can upload your certificate to your Common App as well. And then what we don't see as much, but should, is, talk about this experience in your interviews. Talk about how you apply these skills in real life. You can also put this on your resume or your CV in a similar fashion. So if you need us to write you a letter, the one thing I will say before I talk about letters of recommendation is if you're applying to medical school or to a university that you really want to get into, I would personally not recommend that you ask us for a letter of recommendation unless we've worked with you for a long period of time and know you and can really write you a strong letter. Because if we're not able to write you a strong letter because we don't know you, because we haven't worked with you, it might hinder your chances of getting into that school. And we really do want to see you get in, which is why we are asking you to not ask us to write you a letter of recommendation there. But of course, if you've worked with us for a long period of time and feel like we know you pretty well and can write that letter for you, then absolutely feel free to. But just be cautious, because your letters of recommendation to be a good reflection of you. And if we don't know you super well, then we can't reflect you super well. So just bear that in mind when you're considering us for letter of reference requests. But if you need a volunteer letter or a letter of recommendation for a club or an internship, that's totally okay, and we're happy to write those for you. Rourke will also be helping us write those letters, and Ahmad and myself will be helping write those letters as well. So that's totally okay. For volunteer hours, we don't automatically send you a volunteer letter. We ask that you keep track of it on your own, and then if you need us to sign off on it, we can. And if you absolutely need a letter, then we'll write one for you. And so that's pretty much it for all that I had for the workshop today. We just wanted to say thank you so much, because as much as we plan these programs and we bring in these really amazing guest speakers, none of this would be possible if we didn't have really awesome participants like you actually showing up, doing the work, coming to the sessions, interacting with us, asking the guest speakers really, really good questions, doing the homework, and getting involved. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming to our program this year. We really, really appreciate it. And of course, we hope you had a good time. The last person I wanted to thank is my grandma. Okay, so I know none of you really know who my grandma is, but she is basically MedStem Powered's biggest fan. So she's actually watched every single session for our summer programs and our winter camps because they're live streamed on YouTube. I'm actually pretty sure she's watching this one right now as it is live streamed on YouTube, and she'll like share the links on her Facebook and stuff too, so her friends can see it as well. She's really cute. She's my #1 fan. She's watched all the sessions. She always messages me if she thinks like my hair looks nice or something. So, shout out to my grandma for supporting us, for giving us those views on YouTube, and for just being here to provide those good vibes for us. But yes, yeah, well, if my grandma's watching this, which she probably is, thank you. Thank you, Grandma Sue. Okay, that's it. So thank you so much again for attending our summer program this year. I'm going to release our second poll in a session and in a second, and you can answer that and head out if you don't have any questions. But thank you so much for being here. Ahmad, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to add that we're going to be engaging with our Slack community a lot more this year. So opportunities, if you like advice columns, feel free to use those and ask your questions as you're navigating higher education opportunities. We'll be posting as we find opportunities for you. Just letting you all know that will be something I would love to see you engage with this year.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to be posting tons of opportunities and staying more active on our Slack as well this year. So yes, thank you so much for joining us. I really can't believe that the program is done already, because I feel like I was just starting to like get to know people, but hopefully this isn't the last we see from you. But yeah, we'll stick around if you have any other questions. I'm gonna launch our very last poll now. So give me 1 sec to do that. You should see it right now. You can answer honestly. But yeah, I'll give everyone a second to do that. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to be sharing all of the links that we talked about today in an organized format. So it's organized by the date that it's due, and I'll send it out on Slack right after this. I'll also share our group pictures on Slack as well. But if you're heading out now, thank you so much for joining us again this summer. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for making this program possible and for being here with us. This entire thing is student run. We're not affiliated with any companies or any universities. So it really makes us happy that you, who are also students, trust us to do a good job, and hopefully we've delivered. Okay, I see a couple people with their hands up, so I'm going to answer questions from people. But I also wanted to say, as you're heading out, if you want to come back and do another program, please feel free to. We love it when students come back because that means you enjoyed it and you want to get more out of it. But yes, if you want to come back and ever do another program, like we would encourage you to. You still have to apply again, but you would have already gotten in, so you know what the application process is like. But yes, if you're heading out now, thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us this summer.